Good morning. Will the Committee on Infrastructure, Transportation, and Technology please come to order? I would like to welcome Committee Vice Chair Okimoto and Committee Members Dos Santos Tam and Wire, and Council Member Tupola, Committee Member Tupola will be on her way. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7, the Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology, with the following procedure in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda through two ways, remotely and in person, in the council chamber. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed on the agenda when the agenda item is taken up. As both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii, pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and Section 1-13 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, members of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time, as may be necessary, will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. All persons who have registered to testify remotely via video conference or phone will be called upon first. And when your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. I'll then give persons who have not registered an opportunity to offer testimony. Please then utilize raise hand feature on Zoom to be called upon. For those who are speaking, who are joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. When your phone number is called, please press *6 to then unmute yourself when prompted, and I will announce that later if necessary. Some friendly reminders and tips. Please video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you're also watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time you're called to testify. When the timer on the screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. Once all the remote testifiers have testified, we'll proceed to in-person testimony in the council chamber. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to speak following the oral testimonies of the registered speakers. Pursuant to HRS Section 92-3.7, it requires all votes at remote meetings to be conducted by a roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, I will first call for objections, and if there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. If there will be any council members participating from outside of the council chamber, in accordance with HRS Section 92-3.7, the meeting will automatically recess if we lose audiovisual contact with that member, and we will not be able to reconvene until we reestablish contact. Therefore, I will ask the member if there will be any beforehand, if they will be voluntarily signing out of the meeting. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones, silence or turn off all cell phones. For action, we are now moving to agenda item number 1. This resolution is Resolution 25-224, and it appoints Cynthia L. McMillan to serve on the Rate Commission of the City and County of Honolulu for a term to expire on June 30, 2030. With us, we do have the appointee here for our Rate Commission appointee here, Cynthia McMillan. If we could please welcome her up to the podium, and you can click the on-off button, and then you may do a welcome or introductory statement.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate this opportunity and members as well. I'm honored that Chair Waters would submit my reappointment to this Rate Commission. You know, before my experience last year, I knew technically and theoretically the advisory nature of the commission. But it's another thing entirely to take the public testimony and then have to make decisions and recommendations to give to the council. And so I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to continuing to represent bus riders. I'm not a handy van user, but we did hear from many of them last year. But I look forward to representing bus riders in this role if I may continue. Before I conclude, I just want to give out a shout out to my council member, Dos Santos Tam, whom I met waiting for a bus at a bus stop a couple of months ago. So thank you.
Thank you, members. Do you have any questions for the reappointment of our rate commissioner? We have your council member Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you, and I appreciate seeing you walking around and taking the bus and really living the car-free life, and that's really admirable. Something came up the other day in relation to the proposed rate hikes, and that was the fare box recovery ratio policy. As a current rate commissioner and as one that's being reappointed, do you have any thoughts about whether this policy is useful at all or should be repealed?
You know, council member, that's a very good question. And just based on the testimony we took, there are many bus riders who feel that the bus rides should be free. I mean, if the public policy is to encourage bus ridership and to encourage transit ridership, then their thinking was, never mind rate increases, you should be giving this to us free. As commissioners, we had to balance that with the very real needs of the city and the operating and maintenance costs of a transit system. And so I do think it's something that's worth looking at. If you're asking me for a recommendation on the distribution and the percentages, not prepared to give that to you today. But it is, you know, when we went out to public testimony, we did hear competing testimony, right? People have different needs. They have different goals at the outset. And so that's the balancing act that the commission has to do, but to a far lesser extent than you as council members. I give you credit.
Thank you. I appreciate the very thoughtful answer.
Members, any other questions for the reappointment? Ms. McMillan, I do have a question relating to the different structures about who would then get the reduced fare, and how you said it is a hard decision to either then add whether it be seniors, and I know that there have been some testimony relating to including youth as well. And so I was wondering how you were able to balance that. What was that discussion like in the rate commission, whether to include youth or not?
Thank you. It was a discussion because for many years, people have looked at the rates and looked at the senior rates and said, you know, yes, we want seniors to have a very easy time of riding the bus. We want it to be cheap for them. We want them to be encouraged to get out, to be mobile, to be part of the community, and transportation is a key part of that. At the same time, those rates were just very, very low. And so we looked at that. And in addition, we had to balance the student rates is a similar issue, right? Because you have people who need the transportation to get to school, to get to their activities. And so we had, it's not an art. I mean, it's not a science. It's maybe not even an art. It's more of a taking your best estimate and looking at, we don't want to damage ridership with this action. We want to encourage ridership, and we have to make sure that there is some revenue coming in. I actually had a discussion with one person outside who I brought up the issue of, you know, do we make things even cheaper or do we make them free? And this person's counsel was, you know, you might not want to do that because when people have a free service, they don't tend to value it as much. And so even if it's just a token, you want to make sure that people are paying something for the service. Now, I'm not sure that answered your question, but those are the kinds of discussions we had when we were looking at that issue.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really interesting. I somehow have been getting emails and not relating to the bus, but actually for charging for trash pickup, which is, I've started to get emails about that surprisingly, and I haven't heard that discussion since about 2017 or 16 when we were talking about bulky items back in the day. I'm sorry, not, you know, before, sorry. But it's really interesting how different communities and people look at public service as well as the increase in service availability. So paying, not paying, and and balancing that out. I do also have a question as it relates to, and probably the Rate Commission deals with this a lot less as it's more with DTS, but the communication with the schools for those I guess, different fares that the DOE provides for maybe it be special education programs or even students that they offer it to. Was that taken into consideration as well?
Thank you. We did not discuss the particular issue of the school DOE transportation, but there was a robust discussion about special event transportation using OTS, the bus, right? And looking at how we can make better use of those fares when there are special events, say up on the North Shore. How can we monetize the service that OTS is providing for those events to make sure that we can recover the costs of transporting people to those events.
Thank you. Since this is a reappointment and Chair Waters is reappointing you to the Rate Commission, what is something that you've learned? I know that the balance and taking the testimony and being advisory is something that you mentioned in your opening statement, but are there any other key takeaways that you'll take into your next term of being reappointed?
Yes, as a matter of fact, one of the things that I learned from the public testimony was that people, not everyone, but there's a certain percentage of the population, bus riders and transit riders in general, who wouldn't mind paying a little higher fare if they felt they saw the increase in value. And most often this came up, and this is probably for your committee's information, most often it came up with things like emptying the rubbish at the bus stops, making sure the bus stops are clean, making sure that they're safe, and making sure that the buses are clean and safe. And so I think that was an interesting insight for me. I hadn't considered that.
Thank you. That is actually something that I know that our offices do receive, especially my community with Salt Lake being so dense as well too. So we hear that a lot. So thank you for bringing that up. Luckily, we have one of the agencies that does help take care of that. We have the Deputy Director, Department of Facility Maintenance, who was here to hear that today as well. Yeah, Deputy Director Mamizuka. Okay, so thank you very much for bringing that up. Members, any other questions before we move into testimony? We have Committee Vice Chair Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Not so much a question, but I just wanted to thank you. I was listening to what you were sharing, and I think you answered some of my questions in your speaking earlier. But I do want to thank you. I know that it is hard. We did have the chair in our budget committee yesterday. And I want to just kind of reemphasize that I agree with your take on, yes, it would be nice if we could have everything for free, but we have to realize that realistically, someone has to pay for the services. So I just want to thank you for taking that stance, hearing the testimony that was shared, taking the public input, but also being mindful that we have a fiduciary responsibility to manage our city resources. So I want to mahalo you for that, and hopefully moving forward, should you be reappointed, that you will continue to speak on behalf of the citizens, but also knowing that we have to fund the program. And if it's so highly subsidized, how can we find that balance somehow? So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And if I might add your comments about the public testimony, one of the other things I learned in this experience is that we need more of it. We held numerous meetings, even in the evening in the community. I mean, I know the daytime meetings are not good for most people, right? But I was a little bit, I would say, disappointed with the amount of public testimony. I probably just jinxed myself, and now we're going to be buried under it the next time. But I do hope that we find a better way to communicate why we're holding the hearings, that we do really want to hear from people who ride the bus and the handy van and Skyline, and really want to hear from the people who ride it. So I think that's maybe one of the goals for the next term would be to get more participation.
Thank you. That's really good, and that you welcome it. And we know this is voluntary. I had a quick question that came to my mind. So in your current term that will now hopefully move over to the next, how many times did you, as a commissioner, have to address the rate increases?
Addressed in the meetings, you mean?
I'm sorry, yeah, sorry. We'll have to discuss the rate changes. I think, was it 2019 I heard was the last one, or 20? It was. I'm not sure if you had been a part of it previously, or is this the only time that?
This was my first experience. Okay. Thank you. This was my first experience. So we had, I don't know how many hearings, multiple hearings, and then plus people wrote in with testimony as well, which I really appreciated. But this was my first experience with the rating.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, any other questions before we move to testimony? Okay, we have Councilmember Wire.
Mahalo, Chair, and mahalo for your service and willingness to continue. I know it's a volunteer position, and so super grateful. I'm just curious, because we are seeing a sizable rate increase. We know that the income, I guess, relief is very low, right? So is that 30% AMI? Is that the threshold under HUD?
Yes, that's my recollection.
I'm just curious if you have any insight from your role about just the general AMI level of ridership. And then also, I think that might be indicative of what kind of testimony we're getting too, because I think folks at different levels are going to have different amounts of access to technology, free time, whatnot. So I'm just curious your thoughts or your insight.
Could not agree with you more. There's certainly the people we hear from are maybe not those we need to hear from, particularly the 30% of AMI below. We had many discussions about the relief and the process for accessing that relief. We heard from multiple users that it's just way too cumbersome. The paperwork required to actually be signed up for that relief is just beyond what most households can manage. And so what we discussed was perhaps looking at that policy and trying to figure out how can we make it less cumbersome for people who need it to actually access it. That's a little bit outside of our scope, but it's definitely most needed.
Mahalo, appreciate that. And recognizing even if it's, outside your scope, it's what's needed by the community. And so I think that makes you more than qualified for this position. So mahalo. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you, my Councilmember Wire. Members, we can go back to discussion, but we will now move to remote testimony. We don't have any registered remote testifiers, but is there anyone online who wishes to testify? Seeing none, we will now move to in-person testifiers. Is there anyone in person who wishes to testify? Okay, seeing none, members, we are back in discussion. As it relates to the reappointment of Cynthia McMillan to the Rate Commission. Okay, maybe for the Rate Commission, maybe we gotta change the name up. I don't know, so that, because people will hear rate and they'll think that it may pertain to another part of the city or part of something that may not pertain to them.
Board of Water Supply, for example.
So sorry, can you say that again, please?
Board of Water Supply, for example.
Oh, right. That's right. That's true. Do they ever come up to you talking about that? Okay, well, that's good. That's really good. Okay, so yeah, maybe we can look at that. I am taking into account a lot of the concerns that you've thought about when people did talk about that they would be willing to pay a higher fare if certain services were addressed, as well as outreach. So I would love to have that discussion with the agencies, and maybe we can extend a welcome to the Rate Commission members as well. Thank you. Okay, so with that, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-224 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion? Okay, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving forward to Thank you very much. Moving to agenda item number 2, we have Resolution 25-209. This resolution accepts a gift of $57,268.70 to the city from the Hawaii Council of Engineering Societies. Yes, to be used as reimbursement for registration fees collected on behalf of the on-site and virtual 2023 Stormwater Quality Best Management Practices workshops held in August 2023. With us from the City Administration, I don't know if it's going to be the Deputy Director or we have our Stormwater Quality Administrator. We have Randall Wakamoto from the Department of Facility Maintenance.
Oh, morning. Morning, Chair Cordero, Vice Chair, and members of the committee, as well as the public. Randall Wakamoto from the Department of Facility Maintenance, Program Administrator for our Stormwater Quality Division.
Members, do you have any questions for the administrator as it relates to this gift? Okay, seeing none, we do want to note that it is Departmental Communication 571 for the department. We will then move to testimony. We don't have any registered in-person testifiers, registered online testifiers, but is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? Seeing none, we will now move into in-person testifiers. Is there anyone in person who wishes to testify? Seeing none, okay, members, we are back in discussion for this gift. Seeing none, okay, thank you very much, Administrator Wakamoto. The chair recommends that Resolution 25-209 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving to agenda item number 3, we have Resolution 25-223, which is the resolution that provides for the acquisition of wastewater pump stations and an adjacent roadway in fee for public use situated at Moanalua, Honolulu, Oahu, Hawaii, and determining and declaring the necessity of the acquisition by eminent domain. We have with us, and we haven't seen in a while, our Chief of Land Survey and Acquisition of the Department of Design and Construction. We have Aaron Sakamoto here with us.
Good morning, Chair Cordero, Vice Chair Okimoto, council members. Aaron Sakamoto with the Department of Design and Construction. We've submitted the draft resolution for the acquisition of the 2 wastewater pump station sites in Aliamanu Wastewater Pump Station 1 and Aliamanu Wastewater Pump Station 2. Just a little background, both sites have been in service since the 50s and under the city control. However, the sites were never dedicated by the developer or previous owner. So that's why we're coming to the council asking for your approval for this resolution.
Thank you. I do have a question for the purpose of the acquisition of the road of the property, or not property, the parcel. I was wondering if it's, let's see here. Is it for, what is the purpose for the acquisition?
It's for the city to take control of both wastewater pump station sites. We have actual control of the facilities themselves. However, we do not have fee ownership of those parcels.
Okay, and so what, since we've had it since about the 50s, right? Why now? Why wasn't it earlier, or what prompted this?
I think it was, looking back at the history, that originally the developer intended to transfer to the city. However, they sold the subdivision, which included the 2 wastewater pump station sites, to another entity. And then that entity sold off all the residential lots, retained the 2 wastewater pump station sites, and they had no interest in dedicating it to the city because the city already had control of those 2 wastewater pump station sites. So there was no impetus for them to complete a dedication to the city back in the 70s when they gained control of the property.
I see. And so does that mean when we are acquiring it, we're not doing it through eminent domain though, right? Like we know who the owner is and it will be a friendly acquisition.
Well, it will have to go through eminent domain because the current owner, they were last active back in the 70s. We've attempted to contact them, get in contact with their officers that were registered, but they're no longer an active entity. They appear to be defunct, so we will need to have court intervention to gain ownership.
Oh, I stand corrected. Yes, it is by eminent domain. I apologize for that. And I did look at it. Since the 70s, the attempts to contact the owner was made, or was it since the 70s, the owner was only active then?
An initial attempt to contact owners were made in the 70s.
Okay.
And then for whatever reason, acquisition, dedication was not pursued at that time. And then recently, in 2024, Department of Environmental Services asked us to attempt to acquire. So we've been attempting to contact the property owners, but given the time, we haven't had any response from the corporate, the company, or the officers that were registered for the company.
Okay, well, thank you for doing the catch-up on that, I guess, since the 70s. I do have a question relating to the parcels itself. I know that we are looking at the parcels where the pumps are located, right? However, in Exhibit A, it shows the whole parcel. Are we acquiring the whole parcel?
We're acquiring the whole parcel, yes. And there are 2 sites. So one site does include a roadway. So
Okay.
it's 2 parcels for that site.
Okay, understood. Thank you. And as this is in my district, will we anticipate to see, will the neighbors anticipate to see any change or difference when this acquisition happens moving forward?
Not to my knowledge. I do not have any indication that there were going to be any changes to the operation. We could check with the Environmental Services and get back to you on that.
Oh, that would be fantastic. So that we could just be ready, be at the ready, whether for the neighborhood board or whatnot. So, okay, well, thank you very much to our Chief of Land Survey and Acquisition, Sakamoto. But does anyone have any questions? Anyone else have any questions relating to this acquisition by eminent domain? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, we will now go to testimony. We don't have any registered online testifiers, but is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? Seeing none, we don't have any registered in-person testifiers. Is there anyone in person who wishes to testify? Seeing none, we are now back in discussion. Seeing none, members, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-223 be reported out to be laid over and published and thereafter adopted at a subsequent council meeting. Moving forward, we are now, thank you. Moving forward, we are now moving to agenda item number 4, which is Bill 52, 2025, and this bill relates to the maintenance of streams and other bodies of water. This is a bill introduced by myself, and so it's pretty straightforward. It includes endorheic lakes to the definition. Just for everyone's information, this hopefully will include another tool to Department of Facility Maintenance's toolbox to enforce, whether it be through notices or notices of violation or information to private streams and endorheic lakes owners to maintain their properties. With that, we have from the Department of Facility Maintenance, we have Deputy Director Warren Mamizuka.
Good morning, Committee Chair Cordero. Good morning, Council members. Thank you for having me. I'm Warren Mamizuka, the Deputy Director for the Department of Facility Maintenance.
Hi, Deputy Director.
Hi.
I'm sorry. I really don't want to interrupt you, but I laid over the last item without asking for discussion or objections or reservations. You can stay up there, though. Stay up there, fast kind. Just one moment. Members, I will make the motion again. The chair, going back to item number 3, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-223 be reported out to be laid over and published and thereafter adopted at a subsequent council meeting. Any discussion? Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving forward, we're now going back to item number 4, and we're going to kick it back over to the Deputy Director. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Committee Chair. The Department of Facility Maintenance supports this bill, Bill 52. The Department of Facility Maintenance appreciates the efforts to add clarity to the definition of streams. So we are in complete support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, do we have any other questions? We have Committee Vice Chair Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Deputy Director. I just had a quick fun fact question. Do you know how many of these endorheic lakes or streams, ponds that we have on Oahu?
Currently, I think maybe, to my knowledge, maybe 3 three bodies of water that may fall into this category.
Do you know where they're located?
One will be in Hawaii Kai, Enchanted Lakes, and I believe in Moanalua, Salt Lake.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions? Any other questions? Seeing none, okay, we'll now move on to testify. We don't have any registered online testifiers. Is this in person? Oh, okay, we don't have any registered online testifiers, but is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? Okay, I see that Angela Young is registered to testify. Actually, I didn't know she was going to be online or in person. Okay, I don't. Okay, so Angela, please proceed.
Yeah. Oh, I'm experiencing technical difficulties. Yeah. Aloha, Chair and the committee, Angela Melody Young. Wishing to comment. Yeah. I think this is a good amendment if you're going to go through and just do a lot of cleaning up physically of the streams in community service training with the students, and as well as metaphorically cleaning up the amendments in this bill to activate environmental restoration and cleaning up the environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you. For clarification, the endorheic lakes or streams or ponds that we do have on island, majority are privately owned, so the city will not be maintaining them. Thank you very much. Moving forward, we don't have any in-person registered testifiers, but is there anyone in person who wishes to testify? Seeing none, we are now back in discussion. So currently, Deputy Director, I was wondering, under the provisions of the ordinance for notice, for notice of need of action, like maintenance, and I kind of liken it to like an NOV that DPP would issue a private property owner to take care of their stuff, yeah? So like, I was wondering, what's that process like? Do you gotta get a call like 5 times, and then someone from DFM will write that note to the property owner?
I'm not particularly sure how many times a person would have to call in for a complaint at that nature. As far as, for DFM going out and inspecting, I might have to get back with you on that, as far as like writing a NOV and a NOO, yeah.
No problem. This bill will come back once more or twice more to the committee, so we can have this discussion further.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, any other discussions or questions? We have Councilmember DeSantis Tam. I had a feeling. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to thank you for introducing a technical nerdy bill.
Thank you very much. Okay, wait. Now I can't focus. Thank you, Councilmember DeSantis Tam. We are in, okay. Now that we did testimony and we did discussion, the chair recommends, where is it? I can't find it. Oh, the chair recommends that Bill 52, 2025 be reported out for passage on second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any discussion? Any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. And we can have this discussion again, and you can follow up in the next committee. Yeah.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, where are we? Moving forward, there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.